Hello, how are we? Hello, how are we? YouTube, it's been a while. Um, Reason for that? Just hasn't been much to update on. And I know that that's not really an excuse to keep these videos nice and fluid and regular, but it was more so just a case of there was nothing much to update. It would have just been a repeat of what had been happening for the last 12 weeks. So we're back. We're going to give a bit of an update today as to where things are at, where we're going moving forward. It's nice and early. We've been out for a walk. We've had our morning sups in. We're hydrated along with that. About 2 litres of fluid in. This is, yes, a 1 litre bottle. Well done. But we've had 2 litres so far. This has actually got a few cool supplements in that I very much like. I usually have a litre of fluid, just water, nothing other than that upon wake. I take my thyroid medication with that as well. Then about 45 minutes, an hour later, I will have another litre of fluid. And in here I have half a serving of H2 Turbo, engineered, if you don't know, get to know. Probably the best spectrum in terms of ingredients when it comes to a legitimate electrolyte hydration panel. I think that the name electrolyte gets, Benny in the background, gets thrown about far too flippantly. Anyway, half a serving of H2 Turbo. I'll usually do half a serving. For me is I find ample. Listen, if I go through periods where I am sweating more, we have had some pretty hot days over the course of the last few weeks, then I may well bump that up. But it'll usually be half a serving upon wake for me. If I've had a session where I feel like properly exerted type thing, then I might do an additional serving post workout. An additional half serving post workout, so only really one full serving a day. Anyway, half serving of H2 Turbo. I've got a serving of Catalyst in here as well, which is the uptake matrix. There's a little bit of an electrolyte kind of blend in there as well. Cherry coconut, again, the flavour. I've got my glutamine in here. I've got creatine in here, and I've also got a serving of Focus Max by Strom, which is the nootropic kind of focusy matrix type product. We did used to have one at Engineered, but we've I think we're in the midst of having a new formula. But the Strom Focus Max is very, very good, and I like the nootropic. Prior to me starting any work for the day or anything like that, where I've really got to have the think capacity, the juices flowing, I do like to have some kind of nootropic in there. Not something I have every day. It will be on days where I feel like I need it, which is most days, don't get me wrong. But the nootropics in there, a little bit of stimulant, some caffeine, very, very nice. So we'll get that in. But going to use today to run through where we're at, what the setup is moving forward into this off season. Now I can say things have legitimately started. We'll get a few meals on show what the setup is, how I'm kind of structuring things throughout the course of the day as well. It's a training day. We've also got a big session today. We've got quads, which is probably my favourite session of the week, if there is one. But this quad session I very much fucking love. So a big quad session to get done. I'm not recording training to the point where I'm like, with a mic as well is something that's just not me. I've actually realised that, and I don't know if it's something that I can work on or it's something that is just what it is. But I find it very hard. It's very much a skill to be able to, or not even a skill, but also a preference with that as well, to be able to speak whilst training in a way that is going to be of value without it being kind of like incoherent type thing. And I also find that when I'm training, I don't want to think about all too much else at the moment other than just training itself, which is a bottleneck because obviously we want to get content out and the rest of it, but needing to remember that it's that fucking time that's super important. And if the head isn't there, then I don't want to be pissing in the wind. But we'll see. We'll see. It might well be something we can progress on. And like I said, it's a skill. We can work on it. We can try it. That's all we can do. But along with that, we're going to get first meal on the go. We've got some salmon, got some sourdough, got some chicken in that meal, an egg. And we'll take our... I kind of split my supplements up into like three windows throughout the day. So I'll have my fasted sup. So when I said I took my thyroid this morning, alongside that I'll come down, I'll take some oral BPC. I'll also take my K2D3. I'll take my ECGC, EG, green tea leaf extract. Easier for me to say. And I'll also take some chromium whilst fasted. And then I'll take my next round of supplements along with my first meal. And then my final round of supplements in the evening with final meal. And that'll be pretty much a repeat of what's in meal one in terms of supplementation, like the engineered line, the omegas and the rest of it. And in the evening, I'll have my sleep aid along with that as well. So enough rambling from me. I will crack on with getting my first meal done. And then we'll have a bit of a catch-up, run through timeline, where we're at, and where we're going to be heading into this off-season. So we'll catch you in a bit. Yes, guys. Okay, so I've actually just made my pre-workout meal. And I thought I'd run through what the setup is with regards to pre-workout meal at the moment. Now, this is dead simple. My pre-workout meal hasn't changed for the longest of times. It is always this in some way, shape or form. It's always something rice-based with a lean protein. They're typically always going to be a little bit of added fat in that pre-workout meal for me as well, and some fruit. I have, over the course of the last 2 weeks now, unintentionally, but come to the conclusion to just remove whey from my diet entirely. Not because I have any problems digesting it at all, but I just noticed that my stomach, my midsection feels better without it in. And I'm using a very good quality. Was using Mutant IsoSurge, and also the Reflex Nutrition Whey Isolate, which is very good quality as well. But just switched essentially all whey out for and replaced that with chicken breast, and things feel better. I've noticed, less gas as well, and even the gas that would be normal to be expected just smells completely different. Given the ins and outs, literally. But sometimes that's what it takes, and I only did that because I actually ran out of whey and replaced it. I had to replace it with an alternative, so I did, and felt better and noticed that and just kept running with it. So that adjustment's in play. And I've also just got some white basmati rice in this meal. I always use basmati rice. I never use jasmine rice, and I never use sushi rice, regardless of where appetite sits. Basmati rice is never an issue for me to digest, and I like the taste of it. I don't notice much difference in the grand scheme of things. I don't like sushi rice. I don't like how kind of gelatinously stodgy it gets. Whether that is something that you do the depths of an off-season where appetite takes a hit, then go for it. But basmati rice is never an issue for me, and if my appetite is has impacted that much to the point where I can't eat basmati rice, then that tells me that I need to address something, whether that's point of pullback or make an adjustment to meals, whatever. But that stays pretty constant for me. And it's either this or some cream of rice. But at the moment, I've noticed that I feel better with the basmati rice than I do with the cream of rice. So it's just going through that process of, okay, well, yeah, there's nothing inherently wrong with these foods, but there are still going to be the more preferable food sources that sit better with you as an individual, regardless of what they are on paper type thing. So it's just a case of trial and error. Anyway, I've got 180 grams of chicken breast. I have got 125 grams of basmati rice. This is where it gets a little bit weird. All right, I've also got 80 grams of banana. Not so weird. But 10 grams of dark chocolate, 85% dark chocolate. one of those things where we get very accustomed to what we tell ourselves food sources and pairings have to be. Like, how can you have chocolate with chicken type thing? To me, chicken is a very neutral taste. I like having chicken with my sweet carbohydrate sources, whether that is some cream of rice or oats, whatever it may be. I like that because to me, chicken doesn't have to be savoury. It's pretty, unless you season the balls off of it to make it taste away, then obviously it's gonna be different in that case. But for me, this meal is very much like it's a pretty sweet meal in the grand scheme of things. So the dark chocolate for my fats in this meal. Potentially some performance benefits, very negligible with the nitric oxides that are going to come from with it as byproduct. And like I said, the banana, and I've got my usual sodium in this meal as well. This for me is like, it's a good amount of carbohydrate sitting in this meal. A good amount of protein, a very small amount of fat, but I'm able to train. I could eat this and train within 35-40 minutes in the grand scheme of things. I leave it about an hour and 20ish, usually there or thereabouts. But another thing on that as well is that, like, some people look at this and go, the answer is the chicken, rice, banana and dark chocolate. It isn't at all. This is a preference thing. I love this meal. I love the food that I eat. This isn't anything magic. If you look at this and go, well, that is extremely weird, I don't like the sound of it. Firstly, if you haven't tried it, I would encourage you to try it before you say anything on it. It's always the case. If you try it and you don't like it, there you go, now you know. But your food sources, especially into an off season, are very much, they need to be, or year round, it needs to be something that is, there needs to be some preference and enjoyment to things. Like the amount of conversations that I have with people, and it's, oh, I'm eating eggs and sourdough in the morning, but I really don't like eggs and sourdough. I'm like, firstly, how do you not like eggs and sourdough, man? Christ. But why are you doing that? And it's like, oh, it's good for you. It's like, you're not going to be able to sustain that for any great deal of period of time that's going to see you amount to progress. And that's the most important thing there, is the sustainability. You're not, if you're doing something, don't treat it as though I'm doing it for a short-term fix, all right? Or don't do, oh, I'm dieting, so I'm now only going to have these select foods because they're the things that make me progress. It's very not the case. What's going to happen in X amount of time once the diet's finished and you're going to want to reintroduce your usual foods, you're going to be on the back foot and you're going to be back in the position that you were. So it needs to be a case of, you need to be eating what you're enjoying. You need to be building your meal plan from a base that you enjoy the foods that you're eating within reason. We know that we're trying to choose the nutritionally dense meals, the foods that are going to digest more, the foods that are going to elicit more progress in turn because of that. And you're going to feel better as byproduct. I very rarely eat something that isn't good quality in terms of nutrition. If I do, it's a very, like I said, it's a super rare occurrence, and I do so because of other reasons, because we've got family and Beth and the rest of it. So sometimes those things are just part of life, but I don't do it because I know that I'm going to feel physically better for it. It's usually the worst, so usually the opposite. So I tend to steer clear, but this is a large bulk of the food. But pre-workout, we're a good amount of fluid in today as well, good amount of sodium, going to obtain the pump, and hopefully produce some goods in terms of performance for this quad session. So I'm going to get this down, but chicken, rice, banana, dark chocolate, try it. Okay, so seeing as it is a training day, I thought I would give a bit of an insight as to what pre-workout supplementation is looking like at the moment. Now today is quads, like I said. Crash bang. Like I said, so a more demanding session. This is really the only session throughout the week where I like to have a little bit more in terms of never in hell. A little bit more in terms of stimulants in my pre. Why? Because this quad session is very demanding. There are a lot of big movements in here. A lot of think capacity needed along with that as well. And just for the little bit of a betterment towards performance for such a demanding session is when I'll then use a tool like this. So I have a serving of tank mode. I need to get a bigger funnel. I don't know what happened to our other one, but this is not quite cutting it. But a serving of tank mode. So tank mode is our stimulant based pre, meaning it has some caffeine in. So it actually has caffeine anhydrous and Infinergy. Now, Infinergy, if I am correct and I remember correctly, is the kind of more slower onset form of caffeine as well, which is perfect, because what you don't want is I don't want someone who wants to be in control of a session, being able to think accurately about what they're doing, not just like a bull in a china shop type thing, is to just have this huge influx of stimulants going in. So the way in which I try and describe to people that tank mode works is it's not just stimulant. There's elements in there for blood flow to help with pump and nitric oxide and the rest of it. It also has some hydration ingredients in here as well. So it does actually have some salts, some pink Himalayan salt and some taurine to help with the electrolyte balance. It does have, like I said, the blood flow, the pump kind of enhancing elements in there. So the citrulline, the alanine, you've got some betaine, a mento pump, amongst some other things as well. And then you've got the tank activator, which is kind of similar to the catalyst in a way that's just going to help with the uptake of things. But like I said, the way in which I try and describe tank mode is that it works in phases. So the thing that I noticed first with tank mode is kind of like the tunnel vision type thing. Like the switch has been flicked, and you're thinking about the session, you're thinking about how movements need to look, you're thinking about if there's certain numbers that you need to be, or landmarks you need to be hitting across the session, you're thinking about that. It's kind of turning down the noise externally, but turning up the noise and the focus, honing the focus on the things that you need to be, without sounding too wank and too wishy-washy with that. Then phase 2 is kind of like that second wind as you get through your session. So that halfway point where you usually start to find, right, cool, I'm about 3 movements in and I've still got another 3, maybe 4 to go. That's when it's like, right, the kick up the arse type kicks in, the thrusters come in. And it's that kind of sustained energy there out. The best thing about this tank mode is the fact that there's like zero crash. Well, so I've noticed anyway. There's zero crash, zero come down. I have clients that are actually able to take this relatively late in the day to, normally we would kind of try and limit caffeine stimulant consumption towards the latter end of the day, but I do know some people that have used this and still had no impact towards sleep scores, towards recovery and the rest of it. So it's not something that is going to hammer you hard from a CNS standpoint whatsoever. So I have that serving 25 grams of tank mode and a additional serving of catalyst in there. 2-pronged, gives a little bit of flavour to it, because obviously the tank mode is unflavoured, which is not an issue, but I love the taste of the catalyst, and it also ensures that I've got a little bit more in there in terms of electrolytes, and we're no worse off for it. So I will usually have this finished about kind of half an hour before I train, and that's because a lot of people seem to think that, like, the most important thing for me is that I don't go into the session emotionally out of control. Anyone that's kind of watched me train and how I go about things, I'm very, very present, very accurate in what I'm doing. And that's important for me so that I'm able to get as much as I can from the session, from each movement, from each rep that I'm doing. I've been there before where training was very much like an emotional outlet. So I've realised anyway, it still is. But with that come a lot of inaccuracy to what I was doing and what I was yielding from a session. So I need to go into the session. The time before the session is more important than how I feel at the start of the session, shall I say, or more important into how I feel throughout the session. I need to be focused. I need to be excited to train. I need to be kind of mind on, not here, there, and everywhere. And this definitely helps with that. So quads, always a servant of tank mode. I just fucking be a bodybuilder with it. There's nothing wrong with some stimulants as long as you're not abusing them. You're using them like a tool. Very rarely, like especially in the off season, you've got such an abundance of food, such an abundance of energy sitting there. It's very rare unless you're at the back end of things where you're probably feeling pretty lethargic, given where body weight is, given where total food volume is. A little bit of stimulant can help, but then again, I always find that it's the caffeine that typically kind of skews appetite. And it's not something that I need. You just kind of need to just let yourself be a little bit uncomfortable at that point. Back end of prep, probably a different story. It's probably when my caffeine consumption or my stimulant consumption is at its highest. And like I said, there's reasons for that. But even then, not to a point where it's aggressive. And that was something that for me, this past prep was a real eye-opener, a real lesson learned in the regard that I only really started utilising stimulants. That's coffee, caffeine from coffee and pre-workouts as well, until about like the 6 week out mark, I would say. And then again, that was sparingly. That wasn't every session. It was just when I really felt like I was dragging, whether that was after a period of a really kind of aggressive stint of fat loss or a few days of digging. Those things are good tools to utilise, but I was being very cautious, very mindful of that. And as byproduct, especially when stimulants in terms of fat burners, clenbuterol usage is usually pretty high at that point. Well, not high, but present. You start to see impact towards sleep. And as soon as that goes, everything else will go. The look will go. The mind will go. Everything will start to snowball from there. So caffeine is a tool. Use it sparingly, use it wisely, and don't be a goddamn idiot. Right, let's go get some quads. And that is quads done. Very, very good session. In that groove where every movement is just on the money. Stimulus, connection. I'm leaving things with, a crazy good pump, which for me is a big indicator for what I want from a movement. And if I'm potentially out of sync somewhere, whether that's movement, whether that's routine, whatever it may be. Some people are not, all too focused with regards to connection pump. I'm not saying it needs to be the be all and end all, but it is and it's definitely not for me, but it is very much like a fail safe. If I know that that's in a good spot, then I can be pretty sure that what I'm doing is accurate, is of good quality. It's a session. I did get a few bits recorded. I'll see if I can try and stitch some bits in, but went in, started on the line leg curl. Everything's just straight sets. I have no intensifiers or anything of the sort at the moment. So 2 straight sets of a line leg curl. And again, I've made some adjustments with how I'm moving on that, getting a little bit more out of the stretch on that with position of hip, with position of knee, and it's on the money. Then into 2 sets of leg extension. On here, I'm working around about a rep range, no lower than 8. I don't like working lower than an 8 on a leg extension. For me, it's just it pulls me away from where I want to be. So 2 sets on leg extension. The quads are lit up. by this point, and then it is on to the first big, I say big, but the first big movement of the session, and I am using the Cybex hack squat at the moment. I'm getting a nice amount of knee flexion on that, and a good amount of quad stimulus. It's very much the Cybex, and how you use it is very much a skill, as is any machine. You can make it very easily with just the smallest of tweaks, all of the quad engagement that you want and need, or the opposite and make it very glute dominant. Again, you're still going to pick up quad either way with foot, wherever foot position is, but I want to, on this, for me, it's very much like I want to reduce everything else. I just want quad. I've got hamstring and glute session later on during the week. If I wanted more glute, I'd change my foot position, but I'm opting for a pretty low foot placement, a little bit of heel elevation at the moment as well. So 2 sets there. Then into the Cybex 45-degree leg press. And today I did 1 set bilateral, and my second set I did single leg. No reason for that at all, other than I enjoy it and I get a real good stimulus out of it. The movement in terms of bilateral and unilateral is pretty much identical. It just allows me in that second set, and any movements where you're working kind of single limb setup, allows me to just work on the skill element of things, the neuro kind of drive, the connection, what I'm feeling, and then it makes it easier. I'm building that skill into the following set the next week. So a little bit of, you can call that skill development, but it's still a set that I take to failure there. So 2 sets, 2 foul sets on the Cybex 45, which was very, very good. And then we are upstairs for 2 sets on the adductor. And that is the end of our session. I do have 2 sets of abs at the end of this, which was a cable rope crunch as well. And that's the session done. Strong. We'll run through kind of, you understand where I'm at in this off season anyway, and like drug input cycle and the rest of it. So we should see these next few weeks continue, given that recovery's managed, nutrition's managed. So these next few weeks just continue to progress with performance, which is where we want to be. That's the environment we want to be. And I'm not looking to change all too much from how this session's set up at the moment, because I feel it's doing the job. And I'm often asked, like, in terms of like how I move and the whys and the whats, and one of the biggest things I can say in terms of, it's not anything magic or anything, groundbreaking, it's just accurate. It means that I leave these sessions, or I actually go through these sessions and finish these sessions not completely soulless and lifeless. A huge CNS drive in this session, because some of the movements, regardless of how you move or not, it's just going to require it. But I'm leaving every single one of these sessions with the main thing that's been taxed is muscle, not my head, not my ability to stand and think and talk and the rest of it. It's just muscular. Everything fucking hurts and is swollen. And don't get me wrong, am I a little bit kind of worse for wear in terms of CNS? Yeah, fuck yeah, we should be. But not to the point. We shouldn't be walking out of these sessions and the thing, if we were to have like a bar chart, CNS, stimulus, pump, but then the rest of it, it shouldn't be CNS that's the thing sky high every single session. And that's probably why my need to deload is, or one of the reasons as to why my need to deload is so few and far between, because I'm managing my ability to sustain these training sessions very well, so I'm not moving in a way where I'm just absolutely upending myself from a headspace perspective. So I feel relatively fresh. Long gone are the days where waking up the next day and you're in a daze because you've emptied the soul. The immature leg days are gone. Everything's accurate. It's not half-assed. It's very fucking difficult. I wouldn't have legs like I have if it wasn't that way. So yeah, accuracy, feel fresher for it, as well as the longevity aspect. Like, touch wood, I have no niggles in my lower body. I have just picked up some niggles in my elbows, which I'll go into later, but no tendonitis issues. I very rarely have to use knee sleeves or anything like that. It's because I move accurate, I move with control, and I don't move guided by my ego. I don't care if someone half of the muscularity or half of the development of me is moving double the load. It means nothing. Never look at what someone else is using. It's just a means to an end, a vehicle. As long as I'm progressing, as long as I am doing what I need to do, that is all. Anyway, rambling again. Quad's done. Head home, post-workout. Let's go. Right, how are we? So I said I would give a bit of an update as to where we're at in terms of phasing, where we've been, what the setup's been looking like for the past 14 weeks, and what things are now looking like as the off season has kind of legitimately started, we'll say. So back in May, so that kind of second week of May for me was post show. All right, so the season was done, wrapped up. We had a week, and then me and Beth were away for 10 days on holiday. Had an amazing time, obviously, and it was something that I was a bit dubious about, in terms of, that post show window is very much an opportunity where we want to kind of have things dialed in, keep that routine moving as it was. So something, like I said, I was a little bit eyes open to, but overall looking forward to it. Because this prep had been a long prep. It was longer than it was intended to be by about 3 or 4 weeks, if memory serves me right. So he's probably looking at close like a 25-week prep, which in the grand scheme of things was quite a long period of time. I've been dieting since around, I believe, the beginning of November 2024. So that holiday was very much needed. So obviously away a week post show, 2 weeks post show, we was on holiday. So away for 10 days, and then home, back into routine. I actually gave it a few weeks before I gave Dan any form of check-in, just purely for the fact that we had our kind of baseline plan in situ before I went away anyway. So you obviously have that huge kind of turbulent period where, you've got the big upshift in terms of what physiology is doing. It's kind of like a moving target for a period of time. So rather than me checking kind of immediately a post-holiday, just gave it a few weeks to allow things to return to somewhat normality, and also give Dan, this was my thinking as well, to give Dan a bit of respite from having to look at my check-in pictures and go through the process and whatnot, because I know what it's like, but I also know how he works, and it makes no difference to him. But I very much just wanted to give him a little bit of time there as well, because we had a pretty throughout that prep, it was super frequent check-ins. So I wanted to give him a little bit of freshness as well, let him focus on other guys. Whilst there's not all too much that was happening with me at that point, it was just get into routine, let fluid balance return to normality, but also give myself a little bit of respite from checking in after, a really hectic period of things. So a few weeks just to kind of find my feet with routine and more so just let the body do its thing, because routine for us takes or is no different year round. So I had 3 weeks before we first checked in. So that first check-in that I had with Dan, I checked in at 220.4 pounds on average that week. I had been holding, I think I returned from holiday about 224-ish pounds. So a little bit of body weight drop off between that point, which is just going to have been fluid and the rest of it, and the reset towards hormonal balance and everything else that entails that post show window, and also the holiday there as well. But I've been pretty much from that point onwards, so from the 23rd of June, the week of the 23rd of June, from 220 pounds up until the 4th of August, I've been pretty much holding on average that 220. I had a check-in at 219.8, a check-in at 225, but on average I've been holding around that 220 mark, which is nice. And I see me at a position where performance is flying, sleep's fantastic, body composition is great, appetite's firing. All of the things we want at this point are in a really good spot. Which brings us up until the week of last Monday, which was the 11th of August. And I checked in at 221.1 pounds on average that week. I will say as well, over the course of this kind of recovery phase, if you like, which had been a total there of kind of 13 weeks, my food hasn't changed. My food still hasn't changed, sorry. So that's been, now we're into week 15 and there's been no adjustments towards my nutrition. But with that being said, as of last week, the 11th of August, we've now had the reintroduction of cycle. So that for me is, off season legitimately starting, we will say. I don't know what's happened there. My monitor's just cut out. There we go. So cycles reintroduced now. The plan of attack here is just to give the introduction of drugs a little bit of time to do their thing without having all too much noise going on. So not kind of making all too many adjustments at once, letting things, or introducing cycle, seeing what adjustment or what change comes from that, and then moving from there, which is very much a way in which I like to work anyway. Always super calculated and accurate with things. So cycle start for me now is 450 test and 300 EQ. Now, the thinking here is to hold this for around 4 to 5 weeks, pull some blood work, see what is the lay of the land, or what the lay of the land is with regards to response from there, and then make adjustments as necessary. The weeks beforehand, so that 13-week period there was my cruise, and that was at 150 test per week. So that is the adjustment towards cycle at the moment. Like I said, no adjustments towards food throughout this time as well. You need to remember, what is the aim? Whilst in this kind of recovery phase, post-show phase, if you like, and into the off-season, well, we want to maintain sensitivity as best as we can, right? We want to keep insulin sensitivity, keep the body fresh, keep the body responsive, so that when we need to make adjustments, or if we're in a position where an adjustment is needing to be made, we can be pretty confident that we're going to yield the response from that we need. So keep nice and sensitive towards things. Keep body composition where we want it as well. Not seeing a crazy fast rate of gain, to a point where it's going to be of detriment to our ability to really elongate this this improvement phase, this push up, because that's very much going to be the aim of the game. I don't want to play those cards too early and see that rate of gain happen all at once or week to week, for example, because the likelihood of that is just going to be a lot of unnecessary or unwanted body weight gain, which is not the aim of the game. And then along with that, keeping appetite nice and high, leaning into the fact that hunger's there, and there's not noise from food, but I am very hungry for each of my meals when they come around, which is something I want to keep for as long as possible into this next push up now. So this is going to be a pretty long process for me. Probably looking at another, realistically, I would imagine about a 12-month off season in total before we look to start diet and start prep again as of next year. Again, if that is even on the cards, if that's on the table, obviously the first thing that needs to align with that is it a good time for me to prep within life? Does that align with where both, where I am as an individual, where me and Beth are, with everything at that moment in time, as much as I would love to? We need to be realistic and understand that there are things that we need to weigh at those times. And then also the fact that if I think, or we both agree, as in me and Dan agree, that the improvements needed have been made, which, listen, obviously we're going to make them happen. There's no two ways about it. But I want the next time I compete to be, or next time I step on stage, to be pretty much like a repeat performance as to what this season was for me, which was quite drastic improvements in terms of everything, in terms of maturity, in terms of how I handled that prep as well, in terms of how fluid that prep felt, the look that we was able to bring to stage, the condition in line with the tissue, the muscularity, the maturity that we now had to things, but not benign or blind to the fact that I'm 5'6" and some change on a good day. Okay, so I don't have a huge frame. I don't have the world's most amazing genetics along with that. So very much a case of making sure that I have as much tissue on my frame as I can, because I'm standing next to guys who are big, who are heavy, who are also tall, who carry a lot of tissue, and it can't be a fucking David versus Goliath type out in the next time round. I need to be able to hold my own along with that. And listen, I've got no idea as to what the future holds in terms of where I can take things. I genuinely don't care. I do not give a fuck. I don't think about anything in terms of like the goal being specifically like a card or a placing at a show or anything like that. I have this conversation very frequently. The only thing that I give a fuck about is that I look back, or firstly, I conduct myself on a daily basis where I go, right, am I acting in a way that someone who is wanting to achieve the most that they can, am I doing that? Right, yes, cool. Then from there, the progress is what it is. If I tick every box and I do that, on a routinely basis, I don't miss anything, and I just submerge myself into the things that are mundane to most people, then I can look back and go, yeah, cool. And what will be. I just love the process that this encompasses, everything and everything that comes with it. So let that be a bit of a, not a lesson, but just a reality check for people. It's super important to have goals and aspirations, and we all do. I do. There are things that I would love nothing more to achieve, but that's not the thing that's driving me to do what I do on a daily basis. All right, I want to wake up every day and know that I have done everything to be able to improve. That's it. What will be from there, because we know that this is a super subjective sport at the best of times, right? But we work in a way where we try and reduce the probability of things going against us. I don't have, like I said, the best genetics. So we got to work with what we have. It still means we can get fucking big, thick, just as wide as we are deep is the goal, or just as deep as we are wide is the goal. So training at the moment as well. So I'm still rocking with this kind of a little bit of like a hybrid rendition of what you would probably coin as like a bit of a bro split, in all honesty. And I've had this way of training for a long time, and I do thoroughly enjoy it. And listen, I'm not penciled into any one which way to train or to structure sessions and volume throughout the week. But the lay of the land in terms of training for me at the moment is I train 5 days a week. So my week typically starts on a Sunday. That Sunday session is a chest and delt session. You can call it push, you can call it what you want. I just don't have any tricep work in there. It's solely chest and delt. Monday is an arm session for me. On that arm session, I'll have some calf work in there as well. Tuesday is my quad session. So I have one hamstring isolation movement in that session as well. 2 sets, and then the rest of the work is quad. Wednesday is my back day. I do hinge on that day as well. So I have back and tricep on Wednesday. So I have a little bit of arm top up throughout the course of the week, which you'll see as well. Thursday is then a rest day. Friday is hamstrings, glutes, and bicep. And then Saturday is my second rest day of the week. So essentially a bro split. We've got a little bit more arm frequency throughout the course of the week there as well. But we'll roll with this for however long until we start to see potentially progress start to stall, or we want to bias a little bit more focus somewhere else. Then we can absolutely do that. But don't get caught up in what your training split says, whether it's push-pull legs or it's upper-lower or it's bro split. They're just names. They're just names to where we're situating volume. That's it. What is the difference between a push session and a chest and delt session? Just the fact that we've got tricep work in there. It's not the well, we could call that Wednesday session pull and triceps if you wanted to. But that's the setup at the moment. So like I said, plan is to sit here on this drug load at the moment for 4 weeks, then pull bloods from there. Stay sensitive, stay lean, stay hungry, stay ready to grow. That's where we're at. Right, you're gonna go get a meal ready. Meal number 4. Oh, we got some chicken, we got some rice. No fats in this meal. Chicken, rice, veggies. Let's go. Okay, so it is the end of the day. Come to the end of the day. Where are we at? Steps are done. We've got final meal prepped and ready to roll, which I'll run through in a minute. We're going to take our evening sups, our PM sups. So we got, I'm not going to run through everything. I'm going to run through the main players. 4 caps Turbo Dreams. 6 caps Engineered Cardiac. 1 cap resveratrol, citrus bergamot, astragalus, curcumin, what's that one? NAC, and 2 caps of Turbo Mag and my Amigas, which I'll take separately. So they go in. Moth. Brim. Universal Studios cup. Memories. A hack. Wow, that is a huge moth. Thing looks like, what? Ah! We'll be back. Whoa. Fucking shit was like a pterodactyl. God damn. Some Jurassic Park shiz. Anyway, this is how I organise the majority of my supplements. I use a, it's like a tool bit box, a screw box, I don't know what you want to call it, but I got it from Homebase, I think, and it just allows me to organise my daily supplements, the things that I take routinely, consistently, the daily drivers, and I literally just put stickers across each for what they are. That's how I organise it. I don't separate them daily, I just open it and know that I have to take 6 caps. Engineered cardiac in the morning, 1 cap NAC in the morning, 1 cap citrus bergamot, so on and so forth, and the same in the evening. Dead simple. And it's also easy to store. That goes into the cupboard, and it means that I haven't got an abundance of pots sitting around, even though I still have. Beth is gonna rip my balls off for that. Anyway, final meal of the day. We have 150 grams of salmon, 50 grams of chicken. I have 100 grams of sourdough, which has been toasted, and I've got some cucumber and some salad tomatoes and 20 grams of kimchi. Digestion, get on it. This is an air fryer, one job madness. I basically just make it into like, they're pretty much like little sarnies, and it is absolutely fucking glorious. It's the best meal of the day. Or this or the first meal, my favourite. Salmon, egg, sourdough. You can't beat fucking runny egg and some sourdough. So salt's finished for the day. That gets weighed out in the morning, and I'll do just a little drizzle of 50% less sugar and salt red sauce, and that is us prepped, ready to go. Salmon, lay down some tin foil in the air fryer, skin facing up, don't put it down, otherwise it will get stuck to the tin foil. Max crisp, 15 minutes, you're getting perfect salmon every time. That's us there. Fluids done, rest steps up, we are well done for the day. 9,800. The watch can now go on charge for the rest of the evening. Done. Anything else we need to do right now? No, that is it. I'm going to bed with a little bit of a higher fat meal with the 150 grams of salmon. Again, like I said, majority of my fats are start of the day and end of the day. Keep a majority away from training at the moment anyway. That's pretty much usually the case anyway. So that's us. Listen guys, we are done. Thank you as always for watching. If there's anything that you would like me to run through, please let me know. Make sure you check out engineeredmuscle.co.uk off the top of my head, Billy 10, or use any of the sponsored athletes codes. They all do the same thing. But if you're serious about your progress, serious about your health, serious about performance, there is none better. And if you're interested in coaching, head over to my Instagram, BillyStella_. Drop me a message or click the link in my bio and you'll find shit there. But drop me a comment, drop me a message on here as to what you'd like me to do next time, or anything you'd like to see in particular, and I will do my utmost to get it done. Like, subscribe, all the usual shiz. Much love.